Right, here we are. It's the evening, early evening. What time is it? 6:13 in the Riverina, New South Wales. I've just noticed I've got these two dents in my head. That's where I've been wearing my glasses on my head. So don't worry about it. It's not a lobotomy or anything like that, or some would say I'd need that, but there you go. Anyway, so I'm Tony Bosworth, and I am editor of the West Wyalong Advocate newspaper in the Riverina, New South Wales, bread basket of the country, or certainly of New South Wales anyway. A lot of agriculture here and gold mines, which is always a good combination. They're literally digging up money, aren't they? How weird is that? How weird is that? Anyway, today's Saturday here in Australia, and what have I been doing today? Well, first thing, yeah. So I decided that I would go to this village. It's 30 kilometers away from here, and it's called Bar Medman. I've talked about this before because they're doing a Back to Bar Medman event, which is like 50 years after they had the last one, right? And I thought I'd go down there because I knew that they had been putting shop window displays in. And most of the shops, well, pretty much all the shops actually are empty there. The village is not what it was, it was bustling. It had 3,000 people living there at one stage. There's nowhere near that number now. It's probably about 200 or 300 tops. But anyway, people are sprucing the place up, So I thought I'll go down there. The other reason for going is it's the cheapest petrol in the area. Now, there's no point going, is there? 20 or 30 kilometers just to get cheap petrol. It kind of defeats the object because you've got to drive there. But if you go in there anyway, it's worth it. So I thought that's okay. Anyway, like I say, I had about 60 kilometers of fuel to go. It's 20 cents cheaper there, right, than it is in West Wyalong. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why is that? I don't really know. I should find out, shouldn't I? I've been a journalist. Anyway, off I go. I go and do the pictures. It's brilliant. I go, and also what happens when I'm down there is I see a group of people, and they're tidying up the outside of the memorial park, right? So what they're doing is there's about, probably about 8 or 9 of them out there. There's more utes, pickup trucks, than you can, throw a screwdriver at, really. And I was trying to think of a suitable thing. I couldn't come up with something amusing. Anyway, so I stopped there as well. I know a couple of those folks as it happens. I said, hey, look, this is really good. I'll do a couple of pictures. I'll put something up on Facebook as well. And they were really happy about that. And they told me that the mineral pool, which is another story, the folks there are working as well, doing a sort of working bee on it. I thought, okay, I said, I'll pop down there as well. So I went down there, and yes, they're painting the edges and they're letting this pool fill up. Typical Australian thing. This mineral pool, right? How it came about originally was because there was a gold mine there. There's gold mines all over the shop here, and it flooded. And that was that, that was a real bad thing. But then somebody thought, let's build a swimming pool with the water that's flooding the mine and we'll pump it out. So they call it the mineral pool. The water's like blue. Right? It is. It's like a kind of, radioactive blue would be what springs to mind. Anyway, what they're doing is they empty it in the winter, right? Oh, and the other thing is, it used to be like, so they built the pool. It's big, it's a big pool. And they built the pool, and the ground there underneath it was just mud, right? Eventually, the council said, you can't do that, health and safety. You've got to concrete it. So that's what they did. And so it's a concreted pool. Anyway, what happens is in the winter, they let all the water out, probably back into the mine or something, and they clean the concrete bottom and the pool and all that, and then they let it fill up. It takes a long time to fill up. It takes about 6 or 7 weeks for it to fill up, right? And they've got the water comes up about 45 meters. It's not a massive distance in some ways. We've got bore water at home in the Hawkesbury, right? That's 150 meters down. We've got 5 pumps in line, one on top of the other, to pull that water up, right? All this water for drinking and water for washing and all that sort of stuff. It's water for everything. And 150 meters is equivalent to a 30-story office block. So that is a long way down. Anyway, this one's 45 meters at Bar Medman. It takes it a long time to fill up. Anyway, I said to one of the ladies there today, I said, well, so the water then, is it kind of safe, And she said, how do you mean? And I said, well, because it's kind of blue, isn't it? Right? It's got minerals in. She said, "Yeah, I guess so." She said, "We don't worry about that." They don't worry. Nobody worries about that sort of stuff around here, right? Apparently, she was telling me at one stage the water wasn't coming up, and this is quite a few years ago. And people said they were there, and they're trying to get the water to come up. And basically, what had happened apparently is the mine shafts had all flooded, and they had to put another bore down. But before they did that, they said, "We need somebody to go down there." And she said she had a 14-year-old kid at the time, and she said he's not going. Right. And they were trying to persuade her to let the boy go down there. Anyway, I don't know who they sent in the end, but some intrepid soul went down, probably just on a rope or something. Anyway, there you go. But look, I tell you what, good community thing, because they're all working hard. It's really great to see, actually, I've got to say. And, the place looks a bit like a ghost town a lot of the time, but, just go below the surface a little bit, not below the water surface, I'd suggest. It's interesting what people are doing. They're actually getting there and getting some work done. Anyway, second thing I went to today, it's Saturday here. Did I mention that? Second thing is I went to a book launch, right, of two books, actually. One is about how many how many pubs there were in West Wyalong and Wyalong. This is at the Historical Society and the Wyalong Museum, which is in the old courthouse. Brilliant, actually. Really good. I haven't been there since I've arrived. It's almost 11 months I've been in now. And yeah, so I went there to that launch and had a high tea as well. It was really nice, actually, really nice. Lovely day, although it's one of those days right at the end of winter. It's been very hot the last couple of days, like unseasonably hot, but it was quite cool today, bit of a breeze, but super sunny, right, which is nice. It's hard to know what to wear. Somebody said to me, a lady there, she said, "Layers, Tony, layers." It's obvious, isn't it, really? Anyway, I did have a coat on, and what I'm wearing now, tracksuit top and t-shirt and all that stuff. Anyway, it was really good. And the other book was Vanishing Villages, right? Yeah, there've been so many villages in this area that have been built since the colonial days. You're talking about 1820s, 1830s, the earliest, and before that it was your Aboriginal folks were out here, nobody else. So yeah, kind of interesting. Now, it was a nice afternoon. It was a nice afternoon. I spent a bit of time there, ate a couple of sandwiches, and all that. It's like an English high tea in a way. That was no crust. They cut that off the bread. Anyway, that was that. Anyway, the other thing I thought I'd talk about briefly, and then we'll get on to continuing my top secret history, is I mentioned before about the editorials I write in the paper and how they're up for an award, which is great. How the hell I'm going to say anything about that without without being immodest? I don't know. I might just have to ignore it if I win it. Anyway, so what I thought I'd do, because a few people have mentioned, a paper came out yesterday on Friday, and a few people came up to me today and said, "I really love your editorial." And it's about Father's Day, right? And Father's Day here is on tomorrow, on Sunday. And I was thinking, so what happened was the ladies on the paper, they did an advertising feature supplement thing for Mother's Day. I think I mentioned this yesterday or the day before when I was doing it. But Father's Day, no, couldn't be bothered with that really. Oh, too busy, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I think it's important, So anyway, I wrote this thing. I'm going to read it it's from the old-fashioned thing. It's a newspaper. Here we go. Oh, for God's sake, this thing here. All right. There, just flash by. It's a newspaper, okay? Anyway, I'm just going to read it to you. It's up to you. You can think what you like about it, but I spent a bit of time thinking about it, kind of miss my dad. Not that he ever gave me any advice or anything. He never did. I kind of missed that. I wish he had. I've mentioned this, but anyway, let me go on to it, okay? Here we go. If you happen to be thinking of going to Windsor in the Hawkesbury next Mother's Day, now, that's where my family lives, so I know it well, right? The smart advice would be to stay at home. Such as the traffic, as everyone takes mum out for a lunch or a drink, place is gridlocked for hours, and there's no parking for love nor money. Fast forward a bit to Father's Day. It's on again this Sunday, and you would barely know there's an event happening at all. Yes, Mother's Day hogs the limelight. But I happen to think we should be paying at least as much attention to Father's Day because, well, it takes two to make a family. I'm talking to my audience here. Just forgive me, please. Right? I'll put in brackets. I realize I'm being very traditional here, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let's just skirt over that. I don't want to be outed or anything, right? I don't want people going on about, oh, he's not woke enough or whatever it is. I don't know. Anyway, now, my dad taught me many things, not least that fairness, decency, and the truth were as important as the fact you could make beer with yeast. Surely one of life's key skills. My dad wasn't a sporty dad, though in his youth he did play and then umpire hockey. Rather, he was a brainy dad. He knew the answer to everything. He would rarely chuck me a rugby ball, but he could explain why cricket went on for 5 days and could still end in a draw. It's true, isn't it? And quantum physics, no problem. He knew all of that. My dad was a scientist and in his early days a teacher. He later became a doctor and professor. I inherited none of his logical brain or intelligence, actually. But like him, I need to know the answer to everything. During national service in Britain, he was seconded to a unit he never named, but he did teach me Russian, so I soon worked that out. It comes back to the spy thing, I think, again, which we'll talk about a little bit more, no doubt. What I realized years later is he really did know pretty much everything. So if you ask some dads why the Great Wall of China was built, you might be told to keep the rabbits out. It's true. But my dad knew the name of the architect and which bricks he used. He did. He knew intimate details like that because he researched it. My point here is, I'm not crying. I've got an itchy eye. Hang on. There you go. My point here is, we all have or had a dad, and yet some of them aren't exactly perfect. And some of them have trouble expressing themselves emotionally, and some are not even around. But I can tell you this, if my 2 sons do call me on Father's Day, my wife will give them a nudge. I will act nonchalantly, but I'll be very happy to hear from them. And if one day they ask me about the Great Wall of China, I have the answers. So give your dad a call this Sunday. Tell him you're glad to see him. Even give him a hug. Just a quick one, mind. He's a bloke. Or light a candle for him and say quietly, "Thanks, Dad." But above all, please don't cause any traffic congestion out there. Your dad wouldn't appreciate that. Anyway, there you go. I think it's quite a fitting thing for Dad's Day. People should remember their dad, or whatever. Sometimes it's complicated, isn't it? But anyway, I think it's pretty important. Okay, just briefly, let's take up where we left off before. I don't know why I say that. Nobody's watching this. It's ridiculous. Somebody needs to, don't they? Okay, so there I was. I was 16 doing my O levels, and I had to stay in Leicestershire in Kidworth Beecham because my fat parents had moved, but I had to stay there and do my O levels, which I did. And I did okay in them. I can't remember. I think I got about 6 or 7 or whatever. And they were the usual things I was good at, English, history, geography. Geography is always weird, isn't it, in school? I don't know if they've changed it now, but it was weird to me. It wasn't about, where is South Africa? It was about how do you work out the square root of a room? Absolutely ludicrous. I bloody hated it. And I never understood it. Never understood why it wasn't about geography, which I think is about the world, and where things are, and what a volcano is, and where are the active volcanoes and all that. We didn't seem to do any of that whatsoever. And I'd chosen geography as a subject. It was the worst choice ever. Maybe the teacher didn't know what geography meant. I just don't know. It was really, really weird. Anyway, I passed whatever. I passed 5, 6, 7 O levels, and I did quite well in them. And that was okay. But then I had to go to Wales, right? I had to go to Abergavenny. And I was super homesick, as it were. I missed Leicestershire because I fancied Michelle, and I fancied Rachel, and I fancied a few other girls as well. I was at that stage, where you're just starting to form, you hope, relationships. So it was terrible, being dragged away. Anyway, I went to Wales. I think on about the 4th day, I was beaten up by a couple of kids because I was English, as you do. But I was rescued by a couple of girls. That says a lot, doesn't it? Rachel Meredith and Susan Tomlinson, right? And they came running down. I was just outside school and said, leave him alone. Leave him alone. What's the matter with you? You know, go away. They didn't say F off or anything because you didn't do that then. And I became good friends with them. And at one stage, Rachel, maybe it's something to do with the name, Rachel wanted to go out with me. And she got a friend, Jane Jones. Jane Jones, lovely girl. Biggest breasts you've ever seen in your life, actually, you know, always in a tight jumper. It's not something you do now, right? I don't think you would, not at school anyway. She did. She was lovely, right? She said, came up to me and she said, would you go out with Rachel? This is like Rachel Brown, the other Rachel, right? Maybe it's the name, I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't say yes. We were 17 or something like that by then. Yeah. Anyway, I used to spend a lot of time with Rachel, right? She used to, yeah, God almighty, I also remember this. I don't know what was wrong with me when I was young. I think I was just like naive, right? I really was. I didn't know anything much. And I remember going around the house one day. Our parents were really wealthy. I had this lovely house. We were going to spend the day together. It was in the summer. It would have been the summer of 76. It was a hot, lovely summer. And we were going down to Abergavenny at first, but I went and met her at the house. And we were friends, right? You know. And I remember this. She had a short skirt on, and she put some music on. You know, her mum was in the other room, and she bent over the record player, and she was showing her knickers. You know, she had a really short skirt on, and you know what I did? I looked away. Right, because I was a bit of a gentleman. I thought I shouldn't be looking at this. So bizarre, isn't it? How you are when you're a youngster. I remember because we went down to the town, we went into a cafe, and I remember one of the blokes there looking at her legs, and I thought, what are you doing looking at her legs? Of course he'd be looking at her bloody legs. You know, she was very attractive, blonde girl, you know. Anyway, I've always regretted not going out with her. I've always regretted that, right? We got on really well. We spent a lot of time together, and I think, I'm sure, it was very upsetting for her, right? Very upsetting, because I basically dismissed her, and she must have been, I think she fancied me, you know. I think she really did, and it's a shame. If she's listening to this, you'll be too old for me by now, Rachel. Anyway, if you are, I'm sorry, right? Hopefully you had a good life and all of that. I've tried looking her up like you do, you know, not too stalky or anything, but yeah, I can't find anything. But it's always difficult because, of course, they probably got married, these girls, changed their name and all that sort of stuff, right? Anyway, such is life. So there I was in Wales, and when school finished, when I was 18, I could have gone to university. I did have the qualifications to be able to get in somewhere, but I decided not to. I wanted to get out and work and earn money, you know. Before that, actually, for the last 2 years, well, from the age of 16 to 18 or 19, I was working in a local pub. And that was really funny because I was serving behind the bar, right? You can't serve behind the bar unless you're 18. But what I did was, I thought, when I was 16, I moved to Abergavenny, or the village just outside Abergavenny, Gilwern it's called. I thought, I'll go down to the pub and see if I can get some work. And I was thinking along the lines of washing up in the kitchen, right? And I saw the landlord there, Jim Williams, and I said, well, look, I'm looking for a job. I've just moved to the area. And he said, hey, do you fancy working behind the bar? I'm like, yeah, why not? That's a good idea. He must have thought I was 18. Well, he did. That's what he thought. He thought I was 18. I had a good beard by then and a mustache. Anyway, what could I say, right? So there I was. I started the following week or that week. There I was, 16-year-old, right, illegally serving beer to people, including local coppers who often used to come in. Now, some people must have suspected I wasn't 18, but I don't know, the beard and all that, it kind of gave me some some years, right? Nobody ever figured it out apart from Jim's son, Charles, who I became quite good friends with, actually. He was a few years older than me. Well, he's actually quite a few years older because he thought I was 18. He was about 25, 26, 27, maybe. We became good friends. I think he knew, right? But he never said anything. But oh my God, I actually was really anxious. And all of the time I was working in the pub, I thought one day a copper's going to come in. He's going to go, you're not 18. But how often would that happen, right? Because the copper might come in and go to somebody's drinking there. Look at him. He's a kid. Arrest him. Is he going to go and say that to somebody behind the bar, right? It's not very likely. I didn't really work that out at the time, but I used to sit there talking to Chief Inspector, right? It's ridiculous. Yeah, there was me, 16, serving beer, totally illegal, you know. Oh, God almighty. Anyway, there you go. And that what we'll do in the next one is talk a little bit about my first foray into journalism and how that came about. And yeah, we'll go from there. Anyway, look, you take care, everybody. And what we'll do is we'll talk tomorrow or the day after. Hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. I'm actually going to be in the office tomorrow because I've got to crack on and get the issue this coming week finished early because I need to get down to the Hawkesbury early-ish on Thursday, which I'll go into next time we talk. Anyway, take care. I'm going to eat something now. I'm just going to warm up some Mexican mince that I made some time ago. It's been in the freezer, but you're not interested in that. Anyway, take care, folks. And listen, please, if you stumble across this, do not pick yourself up, as Churchill once said, and walk along as if nothing has happened. At least press the subscribe button, please. Right? Let's get some more numbers on here. And yeah, let me know what you think, you know, good or bad. Anybody, right? All right, take care. Off we go. And I will talk to you again soon. Goodbye.